Welcome to Top 10 Amazing Facts, where we uncover the hidden stories behind the world's most fascinating people and places. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap that notification bell so you never miss a video. Today, we're stepping onto one of the most iconic landmarks in U.S. history, Ellis Island, the gateway to America for millions of immigrants. Let's dive into 10 incredible facts about Ellis Island that reveal why it's such an important piece of the American story. Number 10. The Gateway to the American Dream. Between 1892 and 1954, Ellis Island served as the largest immigration station in the United States. For over 60 years, it was the first stop for more than 12 million immigrants. It processed millions of hopeful immigrants, mostly from Europe, who were escaping war, poverty, or persecution in search of a better life in America. Imagine arriving after a weeks-long journey across the Atlantic, exhausted and scared, but finally seeing land and knowing you were so close to your dream. For millions of people from Ireland, Italy, Germany, Poland, Russia, and beyond, Ellis Island was the first chapter of their American story. Number 9. Over 100 million Americans can trace their roots here. One of the most staggering facts is that nearly 40% of all Americans today, that's over 100 million people, have an ancestor who passed through Ellis Island. If you live in the U.S., chances are someone in your family tree walked through its grand halls. This fact makes Ellis Island more than just a historic site. It's practically the beating heart of the American family story. Number 8. The Island. Just off the southern tip of Manhattan, Ellis Island was perfectly positioned to intercept incoming ships. It was close enough to the city for logistical ease, but isolated enough to contain and inspect immigrants before entry. The previous processing center, Castle Garden in Manhattan, had become overwhelmed and outdated. The federal government wanted a controlled, federally operated facility, and Ellis Island offered a clean slate. The island had been owned by the federal government since 1808 and used as a fort and powder magazine. That made it easier to repurpose without negotiating with state or private entities. Though not the primary reason, its closeness to Lady Liberty added a poetic touch. Immigrants arriving with hope could literally see the symbol of freedom as they approached. Ellis Island wasn't always the 27-acre site you see today. Originally, it was just a tiny 3.3-acre island. Over time, the government expanded it using landfill from construction projects, including dirt and rock excavated during the digging of the New York City subway system. By the 1930s, the island had grown into a massive complex with multiple hospital buildings, dormitories, and processing centers. It's one of the earliest examples of New York literally creating land to meet its growing needs. Number 7. Officially opened on January 1st, 1892. The very first person to be processed was Annie Moore, a 15-year-old girl from Ireland. She arrived with her 2 younger brothers and was greeted with cheers, flowers, and even a $10 gold coin, a huge sum at the time. Annie's story has become legendary, and today, a statue of her and her brothers stands on the island as a tribute to all the immigrants who followed. That day, nearly 700 immigrants were processed through the brand new federal immigration station. It was a modest start compared to the tidal wave that followed, over the next 6 decades. But that first day set the tone, a mix of hope, bureaucracy, and the beginning of countless American stories. Number 6. The inspection process was grueling. Stepping onto Ellis Island didn't mean automatic entry. Immigrants had to go through a tough inspection process. Doctors examined people for diseases, especially contagious ones like trachoma, tuberculosis, or smallpox. Clerks asked dozens of questions about their name, birthplace, occupation, how much money they carried, and even whether they could read or write. For most, the process took just a few hours. But for some, it meant days of waiting, fear, and uncertainty. About 2% were denied entry, which may sound small, but for those families, it was devastating. Number 5. The Island of Tears. For the majority, Ellis Island was a place of hope, but for some, it became a place of sorrow. Families were sometimes torn apart when one member was denied entry for health or legal reasons. Children could be separated from parents, husbands from wives. Imagine making the journey of a lifetime, only to be told you had to go back. That heartbreak is why Ellis Island became known as the Island of Tears. Number 4. A detention and deportation center. Ellis Island wasn't just an immigration station. During World War I and World War II, it was also used as a detention and deportation center. Enemy aliens, immigrants from countries the US was at war with, like Germany, Italy, and Japan, were held here. Some were later deported, while others were detained for months or even years. Number 3. The National Museum of Immigration. Today, Ellis Island is home to the National Museum of Immigration, which opened in 1990. Visitors can walk through the very same registry room where immigrants once stood, often described as the Great Hall. You can see artifacts, luggage, clothing, photos, and even personal letters from immigrants themselves. Audio exhibits let you hear real stories in immigrants' own words, bringing history to life in an incredibly moving way. It's not just a museum, it's an emotional journey through time. Number 2. The Wall of Honor. Outside the museum is the American Immigrant Wall of Honor, a massive, ever-growing memorial with over 700,000 engraved names. Families can sponsor plaques to honor their ancestors who came through Ellis Island, or simply to celebrate the immigrant experience. Walking along the wall, you'll see names from every culture and corner of the globe, a powerful reminder that America was, and still is, built by immigrants. Number 1. A twin symbol with the Statue of Liberty. Standing right beside Ellis Island is perhaps the most iconic symbol of America, the Statue of Liberty. The two are often visited together, and for good reason. The statue represents freedom, while Ellis Island represents the journey to achieve it. For immigrants sailing into New York Harbor, seeing Lady Liberty meant hope, while Ellis Island meant reality. Together, they form one of the most powerful images of the American dream. Bonus fact: closed, abandoned, and forgotten. Ellis Island closed on the 12th of November 1954, after serving as America's iconic immigration gateway for over 6 decades. The closure was the result of several major shifts. The Immigration Act of 1924. This law drastically reduced the number of immigrants allowed into the U.S. and required them to be processed at overseas consulates instead of Ellis Island. By the 1930s and 40s, Ellis Island was no longer a bustling entry point. It had become primarily a detention and deportation center for illegal immigrants. During the war, the island was used as a military hospital and Coast Guard training center, further distancing it from its original purpose. The last person processed was Arne Petersen, a Norwegian seaman detained for overstaying his shore leave. After his case was resolved, the facility was shut down. For decades, the building sat empty, crumbling with decay. Windows were shattered, vines grew inside the once bustling halls, and vandals left graffiti across its walls. It wasn't until the 1980s that a massive restoration project began, funded partly by donations from ordinary Americans. In 1990, the main building reopened as a museum, rescuing Ellis Island from ruin and giving it new life as a place of remembrance. Ellis Island draws over 2 million visitors annually, making it one of New York's most iconic and emotionally resonant destinations. And there you have it, 10 incredible facts about Ellis Island, the place where millions of journeys began. It's a story of hope, resilience, and sometimes heartbreak, but one that shaped the very fabric of America. Which of these facts surprised you most? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this dive into history, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Top 10 Amazing Facts, and share it with someone who loves history as much as you do. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep exploring and keep discovering the amazing stories that shaped our world.